And
I think it's still there.
And they came with this big plant, and they said it was for me. And I said, it can't be for me. He doesn't bring flowers. And it was from Dad's cousin, Stanley.
Okay.
And it was very nice, azalea plant or something like that. And then when David was born, he came with a plant.
Yeah.
But it came in a metal container, not the way you bring flowers.
Okay.
But that was typical, but at least he had learned.
So Dad brought the plant the second time. Okay.
The second time.
Yes.
Yeah. And we had a bris.
Yeah.
Rabbi
Levens, I think.
Yeah, but the doctor, and I'm blanking on his doctor. Roth, no. Anyway, he said...
Dr. Rand?
Dr. Rand, and he said, would you like me to do the bris at home? And I said, yes, absolutely. And he said he was going to bring a friend who turned out to be Rabbi Levens.
Okay.
And the two of them did a ceremonial bris. And we had some of our neighbors. We had rather nice neighbors at that time. The Gordons were there, and the
How did you meet the Gordons?
The lady immediately behind me, her name was Liz Oheida. She came one day. I would go up. I didn't go up and down the stairs when I was pregnant with you. As I went as infrequently as I could.
Yeah.
And she came one day and she said, I think I was still pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay. She said, I have a friend of mine is having a coffee. Would you like to come? Oh. So I went, and it was at B. and Jean Gordon's apartment. They lived behind us. Their son used to go up and down the space between the two rows of houses and apartments and play baseball by himself. So, yeah. And so she became my best friend at the time. And then prior to you being born, no, about that time, she took me, said there's a young couples club, and Dad and I went to Tifereth, Israel, where Rabbi Levens was the rabbi, in the social hall. Place was packed. 90% of the women were, in my mind, I don't know if it was that many, that were pregnant. And everybody stood up, introduced themselves. Most of the husbands did it. I did it because your father didn't. And said that where they were from, who they were, where they were from, and who their gynecologist was. And half the room was Dr. Schonbrun and half the room was Dr. Rand, which impressed me because when I had gone to see Dr. Rand had been recommended from San Diego. My aunt worked for a gynecologist, where when they examined you, the nurse stayed in the room and patted your head with a cloth to keep you, in case you sweated, and to, hold your hand. And then I go to Dr. Rand. It was downtown. The furniture looked like it was peeling. Nobody stayed in the room with you. He was in and out in 5 minutes. And I thought, what did I get myself into? Then I went to this couples club, and half the room went to Dr. Rand, and he was the head of obstetrics at Sharp Hospital. Well, I didn't know all of that.
Was Dr. Schonbrun related to the Schonbruns who went to Tifereth, Israel?
Yes.
Was Cindy Schonbrun's father?
He was Cindy Schonbrun's father.
Okay.
I want to say his wife's name was Anita, but I don't really know. And we carpooled when you were in wherever, Tifereth.
Yeah.
When you wanted to go to Tifereth when you were 8 years old, you wanted to join and go to Hebrew school. Okay. And Dr. Rand did you and David. He saved my life, I think. After David, I went in shock.
Okay.
Grandma came from Los Angeles with Rochelle.
Okay.
And I vacuumed. And then it was 2 weeks later, and I vacuumed and I hemorrhaged.
Okay.
And I went into shock. And he was on the phone trying to talk Dr. Rand was on the phone trying to talk somebody out of suicide. At one point, I realized that I was going to die.
Okay.
So I said, I need you. And he hung up.
Okay.
It was an easier delivery,
Okay.
but a more difficult recovery.
Okay.
And my mother blamed your father
Oh, no, why?
because he wanted to buy a house on
Yeah.
Cove Drive, and he made me go look at it, which meant I went down the stairs and across the way and back again twice. And both times I said no. And of course, we bought it.
Okay. How did you like living at Cove Drive?
I didn't.
Why?
Well, I didn't know anybody, and everybody I had met at Tifereth lived out in the East County,
Okay.
or East San Diego, near San Diego State.
Yeah.
Not quite, or Mount Helix, or College area. And we were in Cerro Mesa,
Yeah.
up the hill from the stadium. And at the far end of the block was the Millsbergs, but they had a problem child. And so we didn't mix.
What was the problem?
He needed to be patterned
Okay.
to.
Do you remember the next door neighbor?
Yes, the next door neighbor turned out to be your algebra teacher. They had a beautiful garden, and the house was really, really nice on Cove Drive. It was built by David Berman's uncle, and it was built as if it was for Chicago or some place back east. It had wood floors, hardwood floors. It had crank-out windows.
Okay.
The back of the fireplace opened in the back so you could take the ashes out. It had a nice yard, a covered patio. But I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
After I moved and went and joined ORT, I met somebody who had lived directly across the street from me. I didn't know that. It was not until I was in ORT that I met everybody. But
when did you join ORT?
64 or 65.
Okay.
But I mean, it was, I was friends with the Gordons. I didn't know anybody else until I joined ORT.
How did you get involved with ORT?
B. Gordon was friends with Marcy Lawson from Detroit, both of them. And Marcy was friends with Rory Goldberg, and Rory Goldberg had moved from Los Angeles, and they asked her to start a chapter in San Diego. And we went all over the place looking for, they had a list of some sort, I don't know where they got it, people from different synagogues, people from different areas of San Diego. And after the first meeting, I said, it's a wonderful organization, but I think the people are old. And I think they were about 5 years older than me. And the first house I went to, the woman was not Jewish, but it was irrelevant to the situation. And she had a Great Dane, and I sat there terrified. But I was impressed. But I didn't know if I wanted to be with people who were born in 29 when I was born in 36. I thought it was a big deal.
Okay.
It was ridiculous, but that's the way. And everybody was from all over the city. I went to a first meeting when I decided I was going to stay, and it was an opportunity to meet people. And I went to the first meeting when they were organizing, and I volunteered to be something, and Rory told me, no. Why? That was her way. And obviously she had some mental list of some sort.
Okay.
And she said to me, how would you, and I kept volunteering, and I became the recording secretary.
Okay.
So that was nice. And we met all over the place. And you were asking about Mahjong.
Yes.
At some point, I don't know within how many weeks, months, years of being in ORT, they said, would you like to learn to play bridge? Mahjong first. I said, no, thank you. I'm not going to be one of the girls. I said, and then they invited me to come play bridge. And I went to some apartment opposite Grossmont Center, and they sat me down and taught me Mahjong, bait and switch, which turned out to be another way to meet a lot of people. And it was you were in on the beginning of an organization,
Yeah.
which makes you all sort of equal in. Everybody was from out of town. Everybody was from some other city. Everybody was looking for friendships, and things were done very, very nicely to get everybody involved.
How did you like living in San Diego?
When I got over being without family and friends,
Yeah.
I liked San Diego. San Diego was small. The Jewish community was small.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like I knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We joined the JCC. We went on the weekends to La Jolla Cove or no, before La Jolla Cove, Mission Bay,
Yeah.
when you were very little.
Because it was gentler.
Yeah, there was just a slope into the water.
Mm-hmm.
No waves and all that. Difficult.
When did you decide to move out of Kobe Drive? Because I was
The day I moved in.
Well, but because I do remember going to the elementary school for a tour before I would have done.
Yeah.
So it was just before kindergarten.
Yeah, I want to say it was named for Patrick Henry, but
Which one? The school that I went to?
The elementary school. It was named for somebody, but I can't
Okay.
remember at the moment. It would have been a long walk.
Okay.
And didn't know anybody, and everybody I was meeting lived 20 miles east of me.
Okay.
Or not 20, but 10 to 20
Yeah.
miles east of me. So I didn't want the house. I said no, and we bought it. And I took the second time I took Bree with me.
The one on Blue
The
Lake
Kobe
Drive.
Drive.
Yes. Okay.
Then the next year they were the houses close around the golf course.
Okay.
Like overlooking the golf course and touching maybe, I don't remember if it went as far as Navajo Road.
Sure.
Okay. And your father said yes. It was like $25,000. And I mentally spent the whole night furnishing it.
Uh-huh.
And in the morning he said, no. He said, we'd have to buy a refrigerator, a washer dryer, a car,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't afford it. So the next year we could afford it.
Okay.
I don't know what happened in between, but suddenly but we didn't buy it. It was sold out. It was probably the best thing that happened was we didn't buy it because most of the models had a sunken living room,
Uh-huh.
and most of them flooded.
Oh wow. Okay. Where did the Gordons live?
The Gordons stayed on Hurlbut Street
Yeah.
for much longer,
Okay.
and when they realized that the whole world was moving away from them,
Yeah.
they went and looked on houses on Navajo,
Yeah.
and Bea fell in love with one of those. But Jean worked for
That's
a
right.
Jewish accounting firm, and they told them, no, that's too far. So they moved to Marjoram, off Marjoram, between Navajo and Mission Gorge,
Yeah.
because that wasn't as far, and because he had no opinions of his own.
Okay.
So, and they belonged to Beth
Jacob?
No, Beth Jacob was Orthodox. Beth Tefillah,
Okay, because Beth Tefillah, I understand, was a split away from Tifereth.
yes.
Okay.
Wasn't involved in any of it, but the people that were the bosses of the Gordons in the
Yeah.
accounting firm, they were part of the split, and they
Okay.
took over and ran the place.
Okay.
So that's where they belonged. The Silvers belonged there.
Mm-hmm.
The Youngs belonged to Tifereth. The Bermans belonged to, most people belonged to Tifereth.
So the Silvers weren't in the carpool then?
No,
Because if they were going to Beth Tefillah, they wouldn't have gone to Hebrew school with me.
no.
Okay.
And they had Rabbi Penner, who was very learned.
Yeah.
And we had Rabbi Levens, who couldn't have been warmer or nicer or more giving, but whose sermons didn't quite gel.
And they were Cantor Goldberger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How did you like going to Tifereth?
Well, we went because of you, and
Okay.
prior to that, we'd gone to Tifereth for high holidays,
Okay.
and it was huge. Tifereth had a big membership, many of them Holocaust survivors,
Okay.
or not necessarily from camps, but some were, many were. But they were.
Cantor Goldberger was a survivor.
Yeah, and they had, once a year, they had like a New Year's Eve party with like 300 people would show up. Didn't go, but that's what it was. But, and we had friends from ORT who played poker with your dad.
Yeah.
So they had a whole other group of people that we knew that were, and went to bar mitzvahs at Beth Israel, which was Reform. And they were so big that for the high holidays, they met at the Civic Theater, which has 1,100 to 1,200 people. I don't know exactly, but it was huge.
So when did you form the poker group? Or when did
They
you get that?
fairly early. They had one. It was just he only played once a week during that time.
Okay.
And the people came and went.
Yeah.
But we knew like half of San Diego.
Yeah.
And we had a bridge tournament from ORT, and we met another half of, or whatever, group of people from San Diego. And everybody was at that point in their lives where there were a number of divorces. And but you know, there was meetings up on Del Cerro Hill in nice houses, and there were meetings in apartments that whatever people had, and everybody was even. Everybody, we knew each other. I'd say 90% of the women had been teachers or were teachers, were teaching. And we met all the doctors and the dentists and the orthodontists and the accountants and salespeople.
How did you meet Dr. Malkus?
He must have been recommended.
Okay.
But they were members of Tifereth, and they were members of ORT.
Okay.
And she also was very involved with the Padres.